So, you're caught in a bit of a dilemma, huh? You've got the iPad 10, but now there's a shiny new iPad 11 on the scene. You're wondering if it's worth upgrading or if your current iPad still has plenty of life left in it. Trust me, I've been in that spot before, where you're trying to figure out if the newer model is worth the extra cash or if you're just fine sticking with what you've got. So let's talk about it, shall we? Both iPads look pretty similar on the surface, right? They've got that sleek, modern design Apple introduced in back 2022, no home button, flat edges, and the 10.9-inch Liquid Retina display that's super sharp and vibrant. The camera's identical. You've got that crisp 12-megapixel rear camera and a front-facing 12-megapixel camera with center stage, which is perfect for those Zoom calls. Battery life, you can expect around 10 hours on both models, so no complaints there either. But here's the thing, while they look almost the same, there are some key differences that might make you rethink your current iPad. First off, the new iPad 11 is packing the A16 chip, and I'll be honest, that chip is quite an upgrade. You get a 20% bump in CPU performance and better GPU power, meaning it handles gaming, multitasking, and everything else you throw at it more smoothly. If you've been using the iPad 10 for a while, you might start noticing that it's just a little sluggish when you're juggling apps. The A16 on the iPad 11 makes a real difference, especially if you like to have multiple things open at once or push your iPad with more demanding apps. That said, the iPad 10 still holds its ground with the A14 chip. It's totally fine for casual tasks like browsing, streaming, and note-taking, but it might start feeling a bit behind if you're looking to keep up with more intensive uses. Then, there's the storage situation. The iPad 10 starts at 64 gigabytes, which, to be honest, can feel pretty cramped, especially if you're the type to download apps, store photos, or keep a lot of documents on your device. If you're constantly cleaning out files or deleting apps to make room, the iPad 11's 128 gigabytes base storage will feel like a breath of fresh air. It's a total game changer if you want more breathing room right out of the box. And hey, if you're someone who likes to keep a ton of stuff on your iPad, you can even bump it up to 512 gigabytes with the iPad 11. Here's something that might not seem huge but is worth mentioning. The iPad 11 also has 6 gigabytes of RAM compared to the iPad 10's 4 gigabytes. Now, for most of us who use our iPads for browsing, checking email, or scrolling through social media, 4 gigabytes is totally fine. But if you're a multitasker, or if you want your iPad to last a bit longer without feeling sluggish, that extra 2 gigabytes on the iPad 11 makes a difference. It's like having a bit more space to stretch your legs in a cramped room. Little things like switching between apps without delays. Yeah, it's a smoother experience with that extra RAM. But here's the thing, the iPad 11 is future-proofed. With that newer A16 chip, it's likely going to get software updates for a few more years than the iPad 10. That means you're getting a device that will stay relevant for a longer time. If you're someone who likes to hold on to their tech for a while, that extra year or two of updates is a solid bonus. Now, let's talk about the price. The iPad 11 starts at $349 for the 128 gigabytes model, which isn't too much more than the iPad 10, especially when you consider you're getting double the storage and a much faster chip. It's a pretty solid value. The iPad 10, though, is still floating around for as low as $299 at some places, which is a killer deal if you're on a tight budget. If you're only going to use it for light tasks, checking emails, watching videos, or just basic web browsing, it's still a great buy. But here's my personal take. If you're a first-time buyer or upgrading from an older model, I think the iPad 11 is a no-brainer. It's got the storage, the performance, and it'll last you longer. But if you're just getting by with your iPad 10 and aren't really feeling the need for that extra storage or the speed boost, you might want to sit tight. The iPad 10 still does the job, and honestly, it's still a great device for the price. If you're already rocking the iPad 10 and it's working fine for you, the iPad 11's upgrades aren't life-changing enough to make you rush out and upgrade. But if you've been feeling cramped for space or frustrated by the performance, the iPad 11 might just be worth that extra investment. So, what do you think? Is the iPad 11 calling your name with its extra storage and power, or is the iPad 10 still cutting it for you? Let me know in the comments, and let's talk about what's important to you in your next tablet.